Hello and welcome to another video on quadratic sequences. And so far we've looked at calculating the nth term of quadratic sequences. But what we're going to do in this video is we're going to look at finding the first 5 terms of a sequence when we've been given the nth term. So here I've got a quadratic sequence that has the nth term of 2n squared plus 1. And I'm going to calculate the first 5 terms of this sequence. So to do this, all I do is I substitute in my term number wherever n is. So the first term is going to be 2 times 1 squared plus 1. So 2 times 1 squared plus 1. So 1 squared is 1, 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. And to calculate the second term, I'm just going to do 2 times 2 squared. Okay, and I'm just colour coordinating this so you can see my term number. All I'm doing is I'm substituting in this term number in place of n. So it's going to be 2 times 2 squared plus 1. 2 squared is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. So my third term is going to be 2 times 3 squared this time. So 2 times 3 squared plus 1. 3 squared is 9, 9 times 2 is 18, 18 plus 1 is 19. So notice how these are all the same. I'm just replacing n with my term number. So the fourth term is going to be 4 times, oh sorry, not 4, it's going to be 2, it stays the same. It's going to be 2 times 4 squared. 4 squared plus 1. So this is 16. 16 times 2 is 32, plus 1 is 33. And then finally my fifth term, I'm going to do 2 times 5 squared. So 2 times 5 squared plus 1. So this is 25. 25 times 2 is 50. 50 plus 1 is 51. So the first 5 terms of my sequence are 3, 9, 19, 33 and 51. Now before I move on and give you a few to do yourself, I just want to point out a common misconception that people make whenever they're evaluating sequences like this, and it's all to do with BIDMAS. Let me just write down the BIDMAS acronym, and hopefully you know what this is all about, but I'll go through it anyway just to remind you. So the B stands for brackets, so whenever we see brackets in here we always do that first. That has the highest priority. Then comes indices, that has the next priority, which we can see we've got here. And then the next level down is division and multiplication, and they have the same level of priority, which is why I've written them on the same line. And then come addition and subtraction. So if we look at this expression here, we don't have any brackets, but we do have some indices, or we've got an index here. So we need to make sure that we do this part of our expression first before we multiply by 2. Because the indices come before the division and multiplication. So what I see a lot of people doing is they'll do 2 times n first and then they'll square it. So they'll do 2 times 1, okay, which is 2, and then they'll square it. So 2 squared gives us 4, and then they will add on 1, and that gives us 5. So this is clearly not correct because we haven't followed the rules of BIDMAS. So just make sure that whenever you're evaluating an expression like this, we always do the indices before we do the multiplication. Okay, so now it's your turn. What I'd like you to do is pause the video and have a go at working out what the first 5 terms are of the sequences that have these nth terms. Off you go. So here are my solutions. We've got my workings out here, and then the actual answers I have highlighted in yellow to make things a bit clearer. So go through each one of these questions and just mark how many you got right, and the ones you got wrong, just have another look over to see where you went wrong in the process. So that's it for this video on working out the first 5 terms of a quadratic sequence. It's very similar to if we had an arithmetic sequence, but the only thing that you need to be careful of is that you apply BIDMAS correctly, so that when you've got this n squared, or when you've got a coefficient on the n squared, you know to do the indices before you do the multiplication. I'm going to do one more video on quadratic sequences, which just involves a bit more problem solving. So hopefully I'll see you there.